Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about recovering on your own. And when I say recovering on your own, I basically mean recovering without being impatient. And before we start, I just want to emphasize there is no right or wrong way. Some people, some things work for one person, they don't work for another person. I actually tried both ways, and I gotta admit, being impatient didn't really help me that much. I was in a clinic in 2015 when I was 19 years old. And one reason why it didn't really help me was that I went there and expected them to make me healthy, which never works. Like, no matter if it's addiction, if it's a disorder or something else, you can't just expect people to make you healthy. You will find people who can help you to become healthy, but nobody will just make you healthy. And I basically wanted them to make me want to become healthy, which sounds pretty messed up, but that was how I felt back then. And another thing that bothered me was the food focus. And I mean, of course, we're talking about eating disorder treatment. So, of course, they focus a lot on food because for all eating disorders, it's very important to eat enough. It doesn't matter what kind of eating disorder, it doesn't matter if you're quote unquote underweight. But the food focus and the fact that everyone who was there was constantly talking about weight and their appearance and food was so stressful to me because I actually wanted to learn a normal relation to food and moving again, and was just not possible for me. On the hindsight, I also learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about eating disorders, and I made some very close friends that I'm still friends with to this day. But when I got out of the clinic, I was still underweight, and I very quickly fell into old habits. And the fact that I was able to do the things I did, even though I was heavily underweight, led to the fact that I never really saw the reason to recover, because I was I can study, I can travel, I can work. I mean, I was miserable all the time. And at a certain point, after nearly 10 years of starvation, I decided I don't want to live that life anymore. I really want to make a change, and I'm going to recover on my own. So this time I made a pact with myself. I was very aware of the fact that I'm most probably going to get extreme hunger, that I will gain a lot of weight. And I was very aware that I say it over and over again, but I'm going to say it again. Motivation is not something you should rely on, because motivation comes and goes. You should commit to recovery. You should make a pact with yourself. For me, this meant getting up every morning, and no matter how horrible I felt, still deciding to eat, still refusing to work out, still trying to push through. And I'm not going to lie, there were phases where I couldn't do it, where I fell back into starvation, where I over exercised again. But I also knew that I couldn't live the life that I did for 10 years anymore. I really needed to make a change, and this is when I decided to make a change. And I actually wrote down everything that was helpful for me. I wrote down commitment over motivation. I wrote down all the scientific things. I wrote everything down for me to remind myself every single day to keep going. And I was in therapy back then, and that was very helpful for me. And if you're able to get therapy, I would definitely suggest doing that. Try to find someone that you can really work with. Don't just take the first therapist just to have someone. But I also know that this is a privilege, and that not everybody has access to therapy. Same thing with a good doctor. I really would suggest to see a doctor. It doesn't matter if you're quote unquote underweight, because every eating disorder has an impact on your body. And oftentimes we gaslight ourselves because we think we're not sick enough, we're not tiny enough or whatever. But if you starve yourself, and even if you're not underweight, it will still have an impact on your body. If you have bulimia, it will have an impact on your body. And if you have, for instance, restrictive binge type, it will have an impact on your body. So I would really suggest seeing a doctor, and especially if you're coming from a very low weight, it is necessary to make sure you're not eating too much from nothing, basically, because there is a severe risk of refit syndrome, which I'm going to make another video about. So these are basically my thoughts on outpatient recovery. Again, there is no right or wrong way, and if you try to recover on your own and you're noticing you need more help, please reach out to professionals. Please try to sign up for a clinic. For me, it was also very helpful to talk to friends, talk to family, talk to people that I trust a lot and to make sure that I keep my commitment, because as soon as you talk to other people, it's easier to keep a commitment to yourself. So as always, I really hope this was helpful. Let me know if you would like more content like this, if you have any other questions, and otherwise I will see you in the next one.